Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said Japan will interfere in China's potential civil war for reunification with Taiwan. China's ambassador to Japan replied, "Then behead her is the only choice." Is that too brutal? No, because the Soviet Union and the United States already proved that Japan only understands the language of cruel war, they don't understand the language of peace. In August 1945, the Soviet Red Army captured nearly 600,000 Japanese soldiers dressed in summer uniforms. The prisoners thought they would be sent home, but instead they were sent to Siberia, where temperatures reached minus 40 degrees Celsius. Their ears and noses froze off easily, and frozen bodies were stuck like popsicles. Survivors recalled that there were too many corpses to bury. They were thrown into the wilderness or burned like firewood. Food was extremely scarce, and prisoners fought like wild dogs over scraps in slop buckets. The Soviet order was extract maximum labor value from the prisoners. Those Japanese had to cut timber, mine, and build railways every day. If they slowed down, they were whipped, beaten, or shot on the spot. At night, they were forced to stand in the frozen cold for ideological reform and forced confession. By 1956, more than a decade later, about 200,000 had died, and more than 10,000 committed suicide out of despair. Survivors were left with severe frostbite, tuberculosis, and lifelong mental problems. Do you feel sympathy for Japan and want to condemn the Soviet Union? But the Soviets said we were too kind, nowhere near 1/10 as cruel as Japan. Japan used chemical gas against us, and Unit 731 performed life experiments on Soviet people. We still let 400,000 Japanese go home alive. We were too soft-hearted. Now, if you ask the Japanese, do you still dare invade Russia? They will cry and say, no, just thinking about Siberia makes them tremble. Then look at March 9, 1945, the United States Namei firebombing. The US dropped more than 2,000 tons of incendiary bombs on Tokyo and other cities, turning them instantly into firestorms of over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Steel melted, rivers boiled, people who jumped into the river were boiled alive. That night, nearly 100,000 people burned to death and more than 1 million were left homeless. The US pilots could smell the burnt meat of human bodies inside the aircraft. Later, the US dropped 2 nuclear bombs reaching temperatures of up to 6,000 degrees Celsius. So now do you again feel sympathy for Japan and want to condemn America? But America said, we were not cruel at all. Japan killed 15,000 American POWs. Think about Pearl Harbor again. Compared to Japan, we were already being too kind. Now ask the Japanese, do you dare fight the United States again? Japan would cry and say, no, we never want to experience Lemay's firebombing or nuclear bombs again. That's why you never hear Japan say it wants revenge against the US or Russia. Japan only understands cruelty. And the funny part is, in 1964, Japan awarded General Curtis LeMay, the man who burned Tokyo and other cities, the first-class Order of the Rising Sun, calling him the hero who saved Japan. And in 2023-2024, Japanese prime ministers visited the US to lay flowers and bow to the pilots who dropped nuclear bombs on Japan, thanking them for teaching Japan peace. So in Japanese eyes, the people who killed countless Japanese are heroes and the true peace advocates. Now compare this with how China treated the Japanese POWs. In 1945, after Japan invaded China and lost the war, more than 2 million Japanese soldiers surrendered. China did 3 things. 1. Only a group of the most serious war criminals were executed. 2. The rest were given food and shelter. 3. They were taken to massacre sites to reflect on the harm of militarism. China asked them, do you admit you were wrong? The Japanese said, yes, we were wrong. We will not dare again. Then China said, good, if you know your mistakes, correct them. We won't ask for war compensation. Go rebuild Japan. May China and Japan live in peace. And the Japanese happily went home. But why do they now want to interfere in China's potential civil conflict? Because they did the calculation. If they fight the US, 80% chance of winning. If they lose, firebombing plus nuclear bombs, too scary. Won't risk it. If they fight Russia, 80% chance of winning. If they lose, Siberia, too scary, won't risk it. If they fight China, even if the chance of winning is 1 in a billion, they're dead. Because if they win, great. If they lose, they bow and say we won't do it again. Last time, Japan killed 35 million Chinese and China still forgive them because China is the kindest country. So next time China will probably forgive Japan again. That's their mindsets. To Japan as a whole, if you kill Japanese people, they think you are a defender of peace. If you spare Japanese people, they think you are easy to bully, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Normal and peace-loving people will never understand the mindsets of the Japanese. What do you think? Follow me an Eastern perspective to see the world.